Second video for the day, which is crazy. I want to talk about now my Footpads. So my Footpads I've been working on for the last year and a half now, I think, maybe a year. These are so refined. I've gone through so many prototypes, it's ridiculous, and I'm really excited to talk about these. So for ages I've wanted to make a 3D printed footpad, obviously, because that's my manufacturing setup here. Still make it competitive with what exists, you know, give it some uniqueness so that people might be interested in it. And that is the Mushies for the XR. So these things, they're essentially like a blend in geometry between the Cush wide and the Cush low. So it's only 1.5 centimeters thick, like the Cush low, but it has that flare out around the edges such that you get a much wider footpad stance. It's sort of like the platypus, but a bit thinner. And it also has a disgustingly mellow concave, so it's just super, super comfy. And the edges are super nice and rounded as well, so it's just a disgustingly comfy footpad. So this is printed out of TPU, which is thermoplastic urethane. So it ends up having the same material properties as a Cush pad. You can see here I've got an old Cush High, just to sort of demonstrate and show off in this video. The Cush High is solid urethane, and the Mushies footpad is a blend of crazy 3D printed geometry that gives it super unique properties. Basically what we're looking at here, Cush High here, solid urethane. This thing is comfortable, but it doesn't squish, you know? So this is a solid material if you try to press on it or something like that. There's a mosquito, and I killed it. Whereas my footpads are 3D printed in a way such that they're hollow on the inside. And you can see here, when I squish into it, you get deformation all around your feet, wherever you place them. But you can see it really well when I squish into it with my fingers. This gives it properties that's really similar to the Craft and Ride air pad, because they use gel, basically, or at least that's what they call it, gel tech. To give you a super, super squishy footpad. But the problem is with the Craft and Ride air pad, you have a metal frame holding it all together so that it doesn't flop around on your board. But what I've done with my pad is 3D printed the rim that skirts around the outside of your board, hugging the rails and the bumper, out of solid TPU. So as it prints the rim, it prints solid, and then as it prints the top and around the middle, it prints hollow. That way you get identical flexibility and edge hugging properties that you would have with a Cush High or a Cush Wide or whatever. And those are transferred straight to one of these pads. So this holds the edge of your board just as well as a Cush pad, but it has the squishy properties of a Craft and Ride air pad, for example. What this basically gives you is the excellent material properties of the urethane from the Cush lineup, the good edge hugging properties of solid urethane, but the squishy properties of the air pad. And it does all of this whilst also being lighter than both of them. So because the Cush High here is solid, it weighs 750 grams. But because this is printed hollow, you can see that this weighs 300 grams. So it is over twice as light as a Cush pad, and yet it has the best properties of both the Cush lineup and the air pad lineup at the same time. Now that also comes with an extra property that I've designed in as well. Of course, for these to be attached to the bumper, you need inserts in the tip. These are special because they can be removed with a 5mm key. I can just lock this in and then remove the insert, because this thing just has some threads on it which dig into the TPU. And what this allows you to do is remove the thread when you want to. And what this can then potentially let you do in the future is have a longer bolt that just goes all the way through your footpad. What this will allow you to do is pretty easily bolt a front and tail hook to your board without having to do the crazy modifications that I've seen online where you have plates and bits folded in so that you can create these extra geometries. This just lets you bolt a hook directly to the front of your board, just straight through the bumper without any crazy modification. And then say you don't want to do that and you want to carry on again with your normal footpad operation, you can just screw it straight back in. and you're good to go. These are awesome, but I am pretty open when it comes to all of my tech. I've just compared them to Craft and Ride pads, Float Life pads, and just, you know, basically said that they're better. I don't want to start any beef there at all because I think TFL and Craft and Ride pads are amazing. Therefore, these obviously also have some downsides to them as well. And that being that each one of these foot pads takes 17 hours for me to 3D print, which is ridiculous. So that's why I don't think I'll be making a few of these, but nowhere near the amount that you might expect out of, you know, cush availability. So these things are pretty hard to make. Another issue as well with these is that there are layers to the 3D printed TPU, and what that essentially does is create tiny gaps that the grip tape doesn't properly adhere to, which is an issue over time because the grip tape very slowly, as you're using it, starts to flex and peel at a higher rate than other foot pads that are out there. So, of course, grip tape peels on aftermarket pads eventually, but these happen to do that at a higher rate. There's a bunch of ways that you can fix that in the moment. If you notice that your grip tape is starting to peel, you might want to just throw some extra glue under there or something like that just to keep it down. Or you can just ignore it and then keep standing on the sections, which is still grippy, but you know. So those are at least the downsides, so you can understand what you're dealing with here, and that's everything about the design that I think people should know, because I think these are super interesting and super awesome, and yeah, really excited for people to actually start talking about them, because I put a heap of work into their design, and yeah, that's that. So in summary, it's basically a bit of a geometry blend between the cush wide and the cush low, a flared out low foot pad, which gives you awesome control and clearance, and it's also got that hybrid geometry between a hollow 3D print and a solid 3D print, giving it Craft and Ride, air pads, and also cush foot pad properties at the same time. It has removable inserts so that you can attach hooks to the front of your board if you desire that. But of course, there are those downsides of having a 17-hour 3D print time and then also grip tape issues. They're available just in the tail version or also the front version, which has a slot for your sensor cable, some nice T-junction here for you to slot and tuck your cable into and then tape over, which is great for some XR controllers right now. Of course, this sensor version only works with VESC Onewheels. It's using a V4 sensor from Stoke Stock, so, you know, obviously I'm not going to be making these work with normal Future Motion Onewheels, because then I'd probably get into shit, so, you know, is what it is. And yeah, that's pretty much all of their features. That's that. Good summary. Let me know what you think.